Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 102 of the Rise Up and Share Your Medicine podcast. I'm so happy to be here with you today. Today, we're going to talk about ego excuses versus soul inspiration. And I really want to break that down for you because this is something that's so misunderstood that I have found really can stop us, can really make us believe falsely that we're not ready to take action when in fact we're totally ready, like it's time. And so, if you're new to me, my name is Lisa Espinosa. I'm a spiritual career coach, and my work is all about helping you share your unique gifts. What I call your unique gifts is your unique soul's medicine, to share it with the world with the most impact and the most joy. Because the truth is, you're already sharing your medicine, your gifts. It's impossible to not share them. You're already sharing them, but it's all about sharing them with the most impact and the most joy for you, while simultaneously creating a life that you love. I think many of us, there's been such an old paradigm of like, oh, well, if you're sharing your gifts, if you're really being of service, then your life suffers in some way. You have to sacrifice, you have to get so exhausted and burnt out. And that was an old paradigm that was actually based on a false premise. So, what I help my clients do, my students, anyone who's drawn to my work, is how to step into this new vision of being able to be, like we talked about in episode 100, right? The special episode, be blessed and be a blessing. That's what this is about. And so I just want to share, I'm just got back yesterday from a quick trip to Chicago. Oh my gosh, some of you know, if you don't know, I live in Mexico now, but I was born and raised in Chicago. And so this was my first time back since leaving. It was like kind of amazing. So it was like 14 months. I've never been 14 months away from Chicago before. And we went back and it was so wonderful. It was like a whirlwind of activity. And when I come back from travel, we got back yesterday, but I had set like I'm gonna still do the podcast this next day, and I got to practice this teaching today, like really discerning what is an excuse that's coming from my ego versus what is inspiration coming from my soul. So let's talk about that right now. So a couple of things. First, I want to make sure, because I do feel that the phrase don't use excuses, don't make excuses, has been used against us many, many times. And I want to be clear that that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not suggesting in any way that no matter what, you take action. And even if you need to take care of yourself and pause and rest, you shouldn't do it. You should always take action. That's not what I'm talking about. Because literally, sometimes the action that you are being guided to take by your soul is to pause. Literally, my webinar, right? The masterclass, the soul immersion I'm doing next week, the first step is pausing. So please understand that. I'm not suggesting that. So, what I want to talk about is, first of all, going back to the foundational teachings, right? That you are actually a soul having a human experience, right? You're a divine being having a human experience. What does it mean to have a human experience? It means that you have an ego structure. I like calling it an ego structure because it really helps us to see it as like an overlay, like an architecture. So I'm not talking about the ego from a psychological perspective. I'm talking about the ego from a spiritual perspective, the ego structure being that program inside of us that causes us to believe that we're separate from source, from God, from spirit. So that ego structure that we all have, so it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's really nothing to be scared of. It's like just knowing, oh yeah, I have this program inside of me that is always feeding me the lie that you are limited, right? That you are separate from source, that there's other people that are more gifted than you, there's other people that are less gifted than you. It's this structure, the ego structure, its basic program is to keep you within a certain comfort zone, right? Like, okay, this is the safety zone for you. Don't step out of it, because if you step out of it, you could get hurt. But it's not really about getting hurt. This is the interesting thing. The ego is programmed to preserve itself. It's terrified of you actually fully connecting with your soul, right? The ego's like, no, 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 no. We don't want her to really, really follow her soul's guidance all the time, because that would mean that the ego becomes powerless. And so it's really important to understand, oh, I have an ego structure that literally its program is keep you within a safety box. And then you also have a soul, which is your soul is who you really are. And your soul has the opposite agenda, right? Your soul's like, you're limitless, you're infinite. You have the power of source within you. You have infinite capacity to love, to be loved, to bless, to be blessed, to heal, to be healed. And so inside of us, we have two teachers. We have the ego that's like, you are limited. Don't stretch past your comfort zone too much, right? It's like your ego saying all these things, right? Compare and despair. You have to be perfect before you take action. It's not safe out there. Hide, stay small. Now, the ego structure will say it in words that resonate with you. Maybe it's not those words. And then whereas your soul is like, go, 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 keep going, stretch, be seen, be unapologetically you, right? That's what your soul is always saying. And so we have these two programs running inside of us. And what I coach my clients to do, right? If you're watching this, I know it's part of your prayer, your intention, your longing, is to recognize we have an ego structure that is feeding us these messages, but to choose every day to follow our soul's guidance instead. It is very courageous to do that. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not woo-woo or naive or self-indulgent. It is radical and revolutionary to do that. So really understand that. And so what I want you to think about right now is any step, and you might not even be aware of it, but just listen to these words. Think of any step that you've been contemplating taking. And it really doesn't matter if it's a teeny little step or a really big step, because to our soul, it's all the same. So, for example, maybe you've been contemplating sending an email to someone, and you've been thinking this for weeks, and it's just been there in the back of your mind. Or maybe you're contemplating leaving your job, and you're like, this job does not fulfill me anymore, but it's really scary. I don't know. I have so many fears. And then there's all these things in between. But you're contemplating taking a step and that guidance is coming from your soul, because that step, even when it seems like a small little step, right? Even if it's, I recently was coaching a client in helping, and really she has had a very, very busy summer. I mean, all my clients have had just like lots of unexpected circumstances that showed up in her life. And because of that, her already limited time was even more limited. But it was very clear that her soul was guiding her to take some time for herself. And as we talked, she was like, I really, even if I could just meditate for 10 minutes every day, that would help me so much. And so we really, talked about, well, what would it need to look like? What would it require? What conversations would it require her to take, right? It can seem so simple if you're just listening to the story, but if you're in it, you might resonate with that. When you're in it, it just feels impossible, right? But then when you have a safe space to talk about it, you realize, oh, well, I could talk to my husband. I could let my children know. I could, turn off my notifications during this time. There was all these kind of like steps that we came up with. But what was interesting is the first thing that came up was all of the ego's reasons not to do it. It's the ego's excuses. Because why? Because the ego knew I don't want her to meditate 10 minutes every day, because her meditating 10 minutes every day means she's going to be connecting with her soul every day. She's going to be receiving from her soul every day. She's going to be she's going to be more aligned with her soul every day. That is scary to the ego structure. So what were the excuses? And these excuses sound very realistic, right? Very like legit. Well, but what if I turn off my phone for 10 minutes and I get this really urgent call and I really can't miss the urgent call for those 10 minutes, right? Or what if, like, this thing happens with my husband and then he can't watch my kids and da 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 da. And then, and like, we went through all of it, right? Or like, what if I get the 10 minutes and then I just sit there and I'm just like, what do I do for 10 minutes? Or I sit there and I really get overwhelmed because now I have 10 minutes by myself and I get to think about everything more and now I feel worse. Right? It was all this stuff. And we just witnessed it with compassion. All the reasons that this ego structure was giving for, like, nope, don't commit to this. Just say, oh, we'll try, we'll see, maybe when after the summer is over and like things get better, then we'll do it, which is a favorite ploy of the ego, right? Wait till later. And so as we witness compassionately, right? This isn't about judging anything. It's just normalizing it, like, oh, of course the ego is going to come up with excuses and reasons not to do this. That's what the ego does. And so that's the first part of this teaching, is for you to expect that and know that that is normal. It's not a reason to not do it. So my client could have thought, I really want to meditate, even just 10 minutes every day. In fact, we were just saying even 5 minutes, like 5 minutes. That was it. If she got to do more, great, but 5 minutes. But then her brain, the ego structure, starts to offer all these things. If she had just believed the ego mind, she might have been like, oh gosh, forget it. Like, I'll just wait till September and try to start then. Why even try? I don't want to try and then be disappointed. Forget it. But fortunately, she had enough practice with this. And she also had me, right? We had this container to talk about it. And we could just witness it, like, oh my gosh, yeah, there goes the ego saying all these things. And as we let it be there, not be scared of the ego's programming, because that's the thing that can happen, that sometimes we're afraid of the ego voice. But we don't want to be afraid of it. We just want to know it's normal. I'm not trying to demonize it like the ego's evil or anything. It's just like, literally, that's what the ego was created to do, was to help for self-preservation, right? And so as that happened, then she didn't resist it. She didn't judge it. Then that inspiration that gave her the idea in the first place to meditate every day, even for 5 minutes, started to bubble up. Because then she was like, I could totally do this for 5 minutes. Any call that I miss, it will not be the end of the world. If it's going to be okay. Like, I can talk, like, it's like, as we made space, suddenly it felt so doable, and it felt so like, and she was also like, well, I could just literally just, what I teach all my students and clients and you is like, just bring my hands to my heart and literally just let myself receive from my soul. I could just not put pressure on myself that those 5 minutes have to be amazing and I'm going to be floating in air and feel the angels talking to me. And maybe that'll happen. In fact, I really believe that happens after some time if we commit to it. And for some of you, it might be immediate, but that's not the point. The point is, just for her, she just knew it was like plugging in her cell phone, like, right to the battery charge. And so that gives you like a little glimpse, right, of what the process is to understand. So first step, and you might know if you've been following this podcast or just been a student of mine for years, you know that this is always the first step. This first step is always make the intention. So first step is make an intention. Just literally say, I really intend to align with my soul's inspiration, to not let ego excuses stop me. That's my intention. Right? Understanding that your soul, reminding yourself, right? And in the soul immersion event that starts next week, I will go over all of those soul principles, but remembering that your soul loves you unconditionally. Your soul knows the details of your life. So your soul's never going to guide you to do something that is going to make your life worse. Never. That is never, ever, ever going to happen. Okay. So even if your soul, for some of you, I had a very different journey with this, is because I was going to become a coach of this. But even if it's something that seems really big, like leaving your job, even if you're hearing that message, your soul might be giving you that message not for immediate, right? It might be like, oh, we're starting to get the message that in a year or so, that's going to be happening. Not like tomorrow, go quit your job, right? It's like your soul will only give you the step that you're ready for. And so step one of this process is just make the intention like, okay, beautiful soul, help me to follow, to tune into your inspiration, right? That's step one, right? Set the intention. And I wrote them down here because I forget. It's like when I plan for this, I want to make it very concise for you so it doesn't feel overwhelming. And step two is remind yourself that it's normal and to be expected that your ego is going to come up with excuses to not do it. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a weak person. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It's just what the ego does. So when you remind yourself of that and you normalize it, then you're like, oh, okay, this is what's happening. There it is. And you want to practice. This is a very important skill, and we'll be talking about it more in the soul immersion. The skill of witnessing with compassion and not resisting it, right? It's just like, there it is. I'm just watching my ego send all of these thoughts through my head. And at the same time, so then step three is your body, your physical body. You don't want this to just be a mental exercise. You want to just let all of this flow through your body. Know that your body, your physical body, is the vessel for your soul if you intend it to be. So your physical body can process big emotions, can let big emotions and thoughts move through it. You don't want to hold them on. That's what sometimes happens, but it's like just letting that flow through you, right? Like that, like, so what are some of the common things, right? Like if you're whatever step you're contemplating, it might be like, oh, what if it doesn't work? What if people laugh at you? What if you get rejected? What if people think you're dumb? Or what if people think you're not prepared enough? Or, what if you're so disappointed afterwards you can't even get up? What if you just like end up judging yourself so much, right? Like all of that stuff can be kind of the ego's excuses. So just witness them with compassion. And every step in this like 4-step process is simple, but requires, it does require commitment. Just that exercise, just that step of witnessing, maybe that's all you do for now. Maybe you're like, oh my gosh, that's literally just my next step for now. I just need to learn and practice how to observe my brain, my ego, throwing these excuses at me and noticing what happens to my body when that happens. Maybe I just shut down, or maybe I go eat something, or maybe I totally believe it and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. And so maybe that's the step that you do. And I want to be really, really, I want to offer you this invitation. If you decide to do that, what often happens when we're doing this process is that then we start beating ourselves up for the past, right? Then it's like, oh my gosh, I can see how I've totally fallen into my ego's excuses and I've been stuck all these years and I'm such a weak person. Like if you catch yourself doing that, any version of that, guess where that's coming from? It's coming from your ego structure. Your soul never has those thoughts about you. You are exactly where you're meant to be right now. And if you're practicing this and you recognize, oh my gosh, yeah, in the past I've let myself be derailed by these ego's excuses, Just know that's the human journey. All of us have. We've all let that happen. I've let that happen countless times. That's the heroic human journey we're on. So have so much compassion for yourself. In that step, you might call on Kuan Yin, right? Ascended Master Kuan Yin or Ascended Master Mother Mary or your guardian angels, whatever spirit guides you connect with, your enlightened ancestors. And same with as you observe it in your body. For me, what I've been practicing is just reminding myself when I'm feeling big emotions, when I'm witnessing my ego feed me all these fears, and my body starts to clench up. I just keep reminding myself, my body can hold big emotions. My better said yet, my body can process big emotions. My body can totally process big emotions. It doesn't have to resist them. It also definitely doesn't have to hold on to them. My body can do this because my soul is using my body as a vessel, right? As an instrument of love and peace and grace. And then the last step is you're receiving your soul's inspiration. And this might all sound like it takes a long time. It's actually can be quite flowy, and we're going to do a little meditation with it. So the last step is now you're receiving your soul's inspiration, letting yourself receive. But sometimes it's hard to receive your soul's inspiration if the ego excuses are so loud and you believe them. Right? If it's like, oh my gosh, yes, it's right, forget it, I don't want to do this. We're literally shutting the channel for our soul at that moment, to our soul. And so again, what are the 4 steps? 1, set the intention. And maybe that's the step you focus on. You're like, I'm just going to start with that. I'm just going to start setting the intention that I want to align with my soul's inspiration. And I want to notice when my ego is giving all those excuses that it always does, because that's what it's programmed to do. And I'm going to notice it with compassion. Right? And step 2 is developing that skill of witnessing, observing the ego's excuses and not engaging with them. So not arguing with them, not pushing them away either, but just knowing like, oh, that's just what the ego does. And I want to be clear, your soul is very wise, so might very well give you guidance on how to take the steps. In fact, it will. But that will feel very different in your body than an excuse that says just stop, right? And so going back to my client's example, as we were doing the process of her, committing to 5 minutes of meditation, and by the way, knowing that if she missed a day, it was going to be okay. She was going to just love herself through that and be really curious about what happened. It wasn't like, okay, report back to me, and if you missed a day, you got an F. It's just like, oh, let's just be really curious about what happened. And so when we were doing that, she definitely got guidance from her soul that was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do that, this time of day would be best. I would definitely have to close my door. I would, that's different than coming up with excuses that your ego does. It just says, so you'll know the difference in your body. Right. And step 3 is your body. Step 3 is just like noticing your body, just affirming that my body can process, can observe these thoughts that my ego brings. It doesn't have to like resist it, and it doesn't have to like take them in, like keep them inside. It's just like, oh, my physical body is an infinite container. I think it was last episode we talked about increasing your capacity. Well, you can increase your body's capacity to observe and bear witness. And then the final step is receive the inspiration. So let's do a little version of this right now in our inner journey. And you'll see how it just really flows. It's just when I'm breaking it down by steps, like I really want to dissect it for you so you understand what is happening. But and you can take notes on that if that's helpful for you, like do the process that works for you. But you might just notice it just all happens naturally. So you don't have to be like, step 1, set the intention. Okay, let me do that. Step two, now I'm going to do, if it helps you, because I have a very like nerdy student part inside of me. So that literally helps me sometimes to have index cards and be like, okay, wait, what was step one again? So totally do that. But if that just feels overwhelming, or you're like, that's just not how my brain works, just knowing them and just notice like, oh, like it flows naturally. Okay. All right. So, and I do want to show you, I pulled a card. Look at this toucan. It says naturaleza, nature. I pulled this is a bilingual oracle deck in honor of Mexican Independence Day, which was yesterday. And what I looked up, I'd never looked up toucan medicine. And it makes so much sense to me, but it's all about shining, stepping out of your comfort zone, being seen, showing your true colors. It's also, apparently toucans are very playful. I didn't know this. It's also about play. So I thought this was a perfect card for us, because that's what our soul is guiding us to do, right? Toucans stand, I have seen one live. It was in Belize. And you cannot miss them. They are big and bright, and you're like, oh my gosh, and make a lot of sounds. And so that's what our soul is always guiding us to do, to stand out in your unique way, right? In your beautiful, unique way. And the ego is always like, no, 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 no. Like, it's like, stay safe. Don't put yourself out there. All right. So I invite you to take a few cleansing breaths. And as you do, bring your awareness to your feet, your legs, your hips, your pelvis, and visualize those roots of light going down your legs and out the bottoms of your feet, deep into the earth. So you want to really set the intention that you're connected to your body, to the earth. You are grounded, anchored into the earth, so that whatever insights come during this meditation, during this inner journey, they actually get anchored into your life. And now I invite you to bring the palms of your hands over your heart center, as I'm doing now, like this. And just breathe a few times, just really connecting with your heart, especially if your mind was really activated with today's teaching, like maybe your brain's like, but just bring your awareness down to your heart. And you can either keep your hands here or just rest them. And as you do that now, I invite you to visualize a beautiful golden light in your heart. And it's like a golden, I'm seeing it like a golden spiral. If you can see my earrings, these were a gift from one of my daughters. There's like a golden spiral, like that, a golden spiral in your heart. Golden spiral, spiraling, so beautiful, this golden light. And as it spirals and spirals and spirals, it just kind of like releases this like glittery gold dust that fills your body, and it goes to any part of your body where you're feeling tension, maybe your neck or shoulders. Like, this golden light is your soul. Your soul is starting to help your body to relax and receive. It's helping your body to expand its capacity as a vessel for your soul. And just allow that to happen. There's nothing you need to control. You're just allowing it to happen. And bringing your awareness back into your heart. And seeing that light now radiating out in front of you. And in front of you appears that beautiful golden path that we've worked with for so long. If it's your first time, that's okay. Just visualize that golden path. If you can't visualize, that's okay. Just listen to my voice and follow along that way. Seeing a beautiful golden path in front of you, and now you're standing on that golden path. And as you stand on that golden path, your feet are very steady on the path. And you're asking your beautiful soul, because you know that you are here with your soul. And you ask, beautiful soul, show me a step that you're guiding me to take today or sometime this week. And it might be a new step, might be a step you never were aware of before, or it might be a step that you've been contemplating for some time. And as you notice the step, as you hear it, and I want to slow down a little bit. If when you ask this, you don't hear what the step is yet, that is perfectly fine and normal. Know that you will become aware of it at just the right time. But just go along with this process anyway. Just know that your soul just showed you a step. This is the step. It might be what looks like a little step, or it might seem like a big step or a medium step, but it's the step. And don't disregard it. Like if you hear, go take a walk, and be like, oh my gosh, go take a walk. That can't be the step. Like, no, just listen to whatever the step is. And then notice what ego excuses might come up. Remember, the ego is just a program. And so notice, breathe, let yourself witness it, observe it with compassion. What excuses come up? Maybe it's like, oh, I don't have time, or this can't possibly be the step. Like what? Just notice what comes up. Just let it be there. Just observe it. And as that happens, know that your soul is here, and also welcoming Ascended Master Kuan Yin and Ascended Master Mother Mary. And they're just stepping in with this resonance of compassion and clarity. Like when Mother Mary is around, when Kuan Yin is around, nothing that's untrue can really stick. Right? And so just like they're here with so much love beyond any religious dogma, they're just here radiating love and blessings. They represent that energy of the Divine Mother. And so just observe, what is it? Maybe for you, I know a big one for me that comes up is like you can't handle it. You can't handle more. You can't do more. You're going to get overwhelmed. You're going to get burned out. You can't do more. It's just like, so I'm just observing. Right? And so just observe. Or you're not ready. You're not ready. Just kind of observe. I know we've done this in different ways, but look at it from the lens of like, oh, this is just my ego's program. It's really like, nope, we don't want her to do this. So what are the things? Even if they feel real, just notice them. And as you notice them, see them as energy, almost like these dark clouds, and you're creating space from them, right? You're creating space from them. So you see them ahead, but you feel more that golden spiral. And now you're going to let yourself receive the inspiration from your soul. Your soul is literally always inspired, right? And so receiving this breath of inspiration as you breathe in and out, your soul is like, just like infusing you with this inspiration, with vitality. And whether you feel it yet or not, just know, just setting the intention to receive it, just know that it is coming within you. And you'll start to see the effects of it in your life at just the right moment. Don't put any pressure on yourself right now to feel anything. And notice how your soul is blessing you with inspiration. Is it just like literally golden light? I'm seeing like actually golden petals, like rose petals of gold, that your soul is like cascading over you, and Mother Mary's cascading over you, and beautiful Kuan Yin, because she's so connected to the lotus flower. She's just like, it has this golden lotus flower, and she places it. If you want it, you could always say no, but she's placing this golden lotus flower hovering over the crown of your head. And the lotus flower just opens up and just like showering you with so much inspiration. And so just receive it in whatever way feels good to you. And now we just bring the palms of our hands together as you thank your soul, and your soul thanks you for your willingness to receive from your soul. We bow to each other in our own heart. We close this inner journey with a namaste, namaste. We ask your soul to integrate this activation, this healing, this blessing across all four levels of your being: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, across all dimensions of time, now and forever. And so, gently opening your eyes, I'm going to drink a little water. I love how my blue nails look. I painted them for my trip to Chicago, and I used to paint my nails all the time, and now I don't, and I really like them. It's tough to say. My inner teenager's happy. So, if you want to share in the chat or in the comments what came up for you, I would love to hear it. Either maybe it was really interesting for me that the big ego excuse that's like so loud that comes up for me is like, you're not, what was it? You can't handle it. You can't handle more. And it's such a tricky way my ego can get me stuck, because that's something I had to really work through, with having 5 children and being a middle school teacher. There were times of my life where I was doing too much, where I literally had to slow down and not take on more. And so it can feel like a really real, true, like excuse, like, oh my gosh, you're right, I can't do more. And I'm not talking about that I have to say yes to everything and just be hustling all the time. Not at all. But I know that my soul is saying you've got more capacity. Like, stretch beyond the limitations that my ego is placing for me. So let me see. Oh, thank you, Roxana. Summer, you're not ready as yours or not good enough. Yes, Summer. Right. And I think you've shared that before. So it's like just knowing like, oh, okay, that's the strategy your ego has, right? It's like, and when it's been a strategy for so long, it can feel so real and can feel so intense in our body. Like, you're right, I'm not ready. It's like same for me. Even when I was leading this and I heard that, like, you can't handle more, literally I was like, you're right. And I was like, wait, let me observe my ego saying this. So thank you so much, Summer, for sharing that. And again, if you weren't able to hear anything yet, that's okay. And we'll talk about this in next week's soul immersion, which, by the way, let me remind you, next week is the soul immersion. I kept saying August before, so I'm sorry, it's September. and some other, like, I had some people email me like, I was wanting to sign up, but I think your soul immersion was last month. And I was like, no, it's this month. I noticed on the newsletter I had put August. So it starts next Wednesday, the 25th, September 25th. And then Thursday, the 26th is day 2. Then we take a little integration time and Monday finish. This is a free 3-day soul immersion. So we're going to talk about this so much more deeply. And more than talk about it is like really have you experience immersing yourself with your soul. Yes, Summer, it's a deep one. Still learning to break through that. Yes. And, I'm so grateful for Summer sharing this. For everyone watching this, whatever your deep one is, that is a big clue that is part of your medicine, actually. Because if your ego is working so hard with that one, the truth is, the actual truth. So for me, since my ego offers me all the time, you're going to get overwhelmed. It's too much. Pull back. And it's such a deep one that I know the actual truth is I have infinite capacity. I've only scratched the surface. There's so much more I can create. Now that scares some of my parts, but it's like, oh my gosh. So for Summer, if you're not good enough, you're not ready. The actual truth is she's so ready. It's like, you are so ready. And your ego's like, no, we must make her believe she's not ready. She's not ready. She's not ready. Right. And so if whatever anybody else watching this, like, what is yours that's coming up? And just know, oh my gosh, if it's really trying so hard to help me believe this, it's because it's the opposite is true. Susie, minus you always feel this won't work. You can't have it. Oh, those are such great ones, Susie. Yes. Thank you for naming that. And our ego loves to do that. Right. And I'm so glad you said this, Susie, because this is a big one here for you to discern. If you're like, because when we're in it, it can feel like my soul's the one telling me this, but your ego loves to look on the past and with a distorted lens, because I'm sure, Susie, the truth is you don't always fail. I'm sure that's not true. In fact, I did a journal today because my ego was doing this. Like for me, the way I do in the morning, I'll just like write down what the thoughts my ego is offering me. And I'm like, and they feel so real. But then when I read them, and it was something like that, it wasn't "you always fail," but it was some version of that. I don't remember what it was. And I read it, I believed it for like a split second, and I was like, wait, that's not even true. That's actually not true. Yet it feels so true. Right? This won't work. You can't have it. All of those are such great ones. You can't have it. I'm really working on that for me. Like, it can't be as good. For me, it's more like it can't ever be really good. Like, if something is going good, something else is going to have to be going bad, which is such a horrible thought, I know. But it's like, it's all the programming, right? That it's like almost like cap how much happiness you can have, how much abundance you can have. That's what I'm really working on, expanding my capacity to receive more blessings so that I can bless more. And again, in next week in the soul immersion, this is going to be such a big thing we talk about and do inner journeys around. If you can't attend live, I think the time is 3 p.m. Central Standard, which is Mexico City time, which is different than Central US time. So in my newsletter, I put it all there. So let me slow down a little bit. I'll put the link to register here in the comments. You can also, if you receive my mailing list, I'll also have the link to sign up for my mailing list, because that is absolutely the best way to keep up with all the offerings. And you'll click on the link to register, and you'll just have the link, right? And then you can attend live all 3 days, or whichever days you can. I hope you can all 3 days. But if you can't, I will offer the replay for a limited time. I think it might be like a week and a half. I'll look, you'll have that information then. Okay. And I will in the soul immersion class be talking about a special 6-week journey that I'm going to be leading people on in October called Blessed. I am so excited to talk about that. And so you'll be the first people to hear about it if you're there in the class. And of course, there will also be a drawing for anyone who attends live. And the drawing will be on the last day, but every time you attend live, your name goes into the magical cauldron. So if you attend live 3 times, your name will be in there a lot of times. And I have to say, those oracle readings, because I've done so many of the free, they're so powerful. It takes me a little while to get them to you, just so you know, probably like a week to 2 weeks. You'll get it as an audio recording, but it always ends up being the perfect time. And it's such an honor to do that for you, to kind of channel this oracular message. So that's what, that's the free giveaway. And then Summer's saying, oh, dang, I know. Dang is correct, Summer. I know. Isn't it like so interesting? So I'm just going to pull card. Thank you so much, everyone, for your comments. It just really helps. I know it helps everyone listening, right? It just like really deepens. And by the way, if you're watching the replay, please comment, feel free to comment in the comments, like what came up for you. So this is from I love this deck. This is the other fun thing when I do the raffle. I have so many decks, and I get to choose which decks your reading will be from. Wild Woman Rising. But this, I'm going to pull one. Oh my gosh, I turned it over, which I never do, but look at the card that came out. Like, I just turned the bottom card. I know the light, can you see it there? Well, anyway, it says create your own paradise, and she's got that spiral on her forehead. That was a spiral I was seeing in my heart, and the spiral I shared, one of my daughters gave me this. I love it. It's like clear quartz and this golden spiral on top. So, oh my gosh, and she's got a lotus. Okay, this has to be one of our cards for sure. It's one of the cards. Create your own paradise, because I never do that. I never just flip it over. So create your own paradise. Look at this gorgeous, beautiful goddess that came up. So meditate on that. What does that mean for you? Create your own paradise. And then I'll just do a surrender card from the Power of Surrender deck. And I want to tell you, if you want to, the best way to see for a good fit, if you're looking for a spiritual coach to help you with all this, right? To help you share your unique gifts with joy, with impact, while simultaneously creating a life that you love, right? Because it's not either or. It's not either I have a life I love, but I serve no one, right? Or I serve all these people, but my life is so overwhelming and I have to hustle all the time. Like, no, we're here to be models, examples of being blessed and being a blessing. So anyway, if you want, the best way to know for a good fit is schedule a free 1-hour consult. I have limited spots, but there's some spots in September. And if there aren't any, absolutely email me to be put on, like as soon as a slot opens up, I will let you know. But that is a time for me to just like deeply listen to you without any judgment. You can tell me whatever. Trust me, I've been doing this for 15 years. There's nothing you're going to say that's going to make me judge you or be like, oh, that's weird. It's just like really listen and really help distill what are the actual blocks? Like, what are the actual obstacles? Because when it's all in our head, no matter how insightful we are, and look, I am a deeply insightful, reflective person, and I still need a coach. Like, I need a person to create that container for me. And so I'll help distill it like, okay, actually, these are the things like I just did with summer, right? When I just said like, oh, you're not ready, and or with forever, it was like it actually means you are ready, right? To like really distill that and then share with you what is the simple solution for you. And then yes, if we're a good fit and I feel like I can totally help you get the results you want, then I'll share the details of my coaching program. Okay, so I'll put the link in there too. Anyway, I meant to say that before, but let's pull a surrender card. Here we go. All right. Oh, perfect. Surrender stress. Take a few deep breaths and exhale the tension you've built up in your body. Right? This is like step 3 and 4 altogether. It's like know that your body like doesn't have to hold the excuses that your soul has been feeding you maybe for years or lifetimes. And when I say you, I mean all of us. Let the stress go as you come back to your center. Yes, as you come back, I would say to your soul's inspiration. But look at this gorgeous, beautiful woman. So these 2 cards are so perfect. You see them? All right, my dears, thank you so, so much, everyone. I will see you next week for episode 103. And I will also see you for the soul immersion that starts next week. Sign up for my mailing list if you're not on, because there are so many exciting things coming. And I just want to share them with you. Bye, everyone. See ya. You're welcome, everyone.